All right. Now, match and index are, as you can see, are straightforward. Once you know the purpose and what each function exactly does, then hopefully they become easy for you to use. Okay. Now let's take it a step further. Let's use the vlookup functions to do the same thing. All right. So before I do that, I want to show you something. If I change Mohammed here to Shwadin, you can see that everything changes. So everything is automated. If I change anything to any new name, then I will get all the right information. So this is the nice thing about the drop-down list, is if I select a new name, all the functions are updated automatically. Okay. Now let's do exactly the same thing using the vlookup function. VLOOKUP function and HLOOKUP functions, they combine both steps together. So both steps are done together at the same time. Instead of separating them into match and index, the VLOOKUP will combine them together for me automatically. Okay, so let's see how we do this. Okay, so I'm going to copy this again down here, and we'll see VLOOKUP example. Right. Again, we have the name, email, and phone, and data validation. Let me create a drop-down list here quickly. Okay. Now, how do I use the VLOOKUP function to immediately find the email associated with one of the names? Let's have a look. Okay, so VLOOKUP is, again, one function that is simple once you understand how to use it. VLOOKUP, right? Like the match function, the first parameter of the VLOOKUP is the lookup value, the value we are searching for. So I will select Shwadin in our case, comma, and then the table array. Now I want you to notice the difference in the parameter name. Here it's called table array. In the match function, it was called array only. Okay, so when you see the word array in the parameter, it means one column. When you see the word table and the parameter, it means the whole data. Okay, so the second parameter of the VLOOKUP is our whole data, starting from the lookup function. So I will start from name and I will include all the data. Okay, and then comma, and then the third parameter is what column do I need to get the data from? I'm looking for the email. Okay, the email is the second column. The first column is name, is the name column. This is the first column. So this is the second column. So I put 2 here. Okay, and then comma. The lookup range is a parameter that tells us if we are looking for an exact match of the lookup value or approximate match. Okay, in 90% of the cases we will use exact match, and I will show you one case in a few minutes when we practice. I will show you a case when we use an approximate, or sorry, an approximate value. Okay, but in most cases we will use false, like you see here. Okay, and then I'm going to close the parentheses and press enter, and you can see that I got the email correctly. Okay, so both of these steps, the search for the key value and copying the associated value, are combined using the VLOOKUP function. Let's do it one more time in the phone. Okay, so again, equal VLOOKUP. The lookup value we are using. Any question, guys? Dylan, do you have a question? Dylan? All right. So VLOOKUP, we'll do the VLOOKUP one more time. The first parameter is the lookup value. The lookup value, again, is the name I'm using to search my directory, comma. The table array is the whole data starting from A1 all the way to C4, comma. And then now I'm looking for the extension column, right? I want the phone number, which is in the extension column. This is column number 3, right? Name is number 1, email is number 2, extension is number 3. So I put 3 here and false. And I have the extension of Schwadin. Again, if I select any of the other names, this is automatically updated for me.
Can you repeat how you put the 3?
Of course. Let's do it from scratch. Equals vlookup. The first parameter is the lookup value, the name, comma, the table, all the data that I have. And then the third parameter is the column index number. The index means a number, not the name of the column, but the number of the column. So the extension is column number 3, right? So name is column number 1, email is column number 2, and extension is column number 3. So I put 3 here and false. Okay. And of course, each parameter is separated by a comma, as you can see here, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. And I have the phone or extension of Babita Gupta, right? vlookup works exactly the same way, but instead of getting data from columns, we get it from rows. Okay, so I will leave you. I have an article on how to use vlookup. You can see it, but in 99.9% of the cases, lookup cases you will meet in your lives, you will be using vlookups. vlookup is very rarely used, right? Yes, Dylan, you have a question?
I think I got my mic working now.
Okay.
So for question 25, part C, is this what it was looking for when it says combine the match and index functions?
No. In question 25, I'm asking you to use match and index inside each other, so nested inside each other. So instead of separating match and index from each other like I did here, you combine them in one function.
Okay.
Right. You can try it if you and I will post the solution tomorrow to see if you want to see how I did it.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Right. So this is how the vlookup function works in general. Now you understand the concept, how it works logically, and you understand when to use it when we are trying to copy data from one table to another. And the third thing is how to use it. Okay. So now we need to make a couple of comments on lookup functions in general to make sure you have perfect understanding of them. Okay, so these are the basics. We covered the basics. Now we get a little bit deeper. The first important thing about one of the prerequisites, very important prerequisites for you to be able to use lookup functions is this value, the lookup value must exist in the table, right? If we don't have a column called name here, then we cannot use the lookup functions because you can search for Schwadin if there is no column called Schwadin, right? So the first prerequisite is there must be shared data between the key value and the table we are getting the data from. Okay, so if there is no name in the directory here, then if I cut this, cut it. If I delete this row, then you cannot use lookup functions because there is no way you are going to search for Papita or Schwadin or Mohammed in this table, right? So there must be a shared column or shared value between the lookup value and the table you are searching. This is the first thing. The second thing, which is very important, is I want you to watch this example closely. I'm going to insert an additional column here, insert, and I will call this index, for example, and I have 1, 2, 3 here, right? Now, if and I will delete this, I want to do this again. Okay. Right. Now, the match function. The match function will work. The match and index function will work perfectly. There are no problems in the match or index functions. It doesn't matter what, because we are always searching the column that contains the key values. Okay, so the match and index are the same. There are no problems there. But when it comes to VLOOKUP, there is a small catch here, guys. I want you to be very focused here, right? So I'm going to do it I'm going to do it wrong here, right? And then I will correct it. So the first time I will do it wrong. I want you to notice what I did wrong here. Okay, so equals VLOOKUP. Okay. Right. The first parameter is the lookup value, which is Pepita, like we did before, comma. The table array. Now I will select the whole table like I did before, and then comma. And then the index number, I'm looking for the email, which is now in column 3, right? Index is 1, name is 2, and email is 3. So I will put 3 and false. Press enter, I'll get an error. So why did I get this error?
Because you selected index as well in the table, like for the whole table.
Yes, that's right. So for those who are not following, when you are using lookup functions, the column containing the lookup value, which is here the name, must be the first column you select in your data. So you should not select the index column. Okay. Again, this is only for lookup functions, for the vlookup function. Okay. So my key value here, the lookup value I'm using is the name, right? I'm using the name as a lookup value. I'm not using the index value. I'm using the name, right? Right. So when I'm selecting the table, I should not select it from the index. I should not select it from here. I should select it from here, from the name, from the column containing the names, right? The catch here, guys, is that VLOOKUP looks for the lookup value or the key value in the first column of the table, always, okay? And this is why I got an error here. So to fix it, this is what I'm going to do. Equal VLOOKUP, okay, the name, comma. When I'm selecting my data, I will select my selection. I will start my selection from the name here, okay? So I did not select the index column, okay? And then comma. And then now the column index number becomes 2 again. Why? Because I'm starting from column B. So this is column number 1, and this is column number 2. So I will put 2 and false, and I got it. Yes, I have a question here.
Yes. So in a situation where, like, let's say we have the email, but we're looking for the name, would we need to rearrange the data if we're using VLOOKUP in order for it to work?
So if you are doing it, then you cannot use the VLOOKUP. You either arrange the data or use the match index functions. The match index functions will allow you to do this because they search a column, they don't search the whole table. But you will not be able to use the VLOOKUP function unless you, as you say, rearrange the whole table.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So the question, for those who did not understand the question was, if I have the email is my key value, and I want to identify the name associated with it, meaning that I'm looking backward, not forward. What can I do? VLOOKUP will not work in this case. So what you should be doing is you should use the match index functions to identify the name, not the VLOOKUP. Okay. So the VLOOKUP only looks right, it doesn't look left. Okay. Right. So let's do it one more time in the phone. Okay. Again, my lookup value is in name. So equals VLOOKUP. And then I will select the name, Peter, comma. And then the table array. Again, the name must be in the first column in my table. So I will start my selection from name here to the end of my data, comma. Now extension is column number 3. Why it is number 3? Because I'm starting from column B. So column B is number 1, column C is number 2, and column D is number 3. And then false. And I have my extension. Any questions?